back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Another Tuesday night in the Big Ten, and another Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday of feeling bad about things. Terps fans still licking their wounds here. It has been an ugly couple of weeks. Mike Ashley joining us here, longtime insider at Terrapin Times, now doing the press box thing here and writing all things Terps in the aftermath of a mess. I mean, you cover a lot of college basketball, and there's trends and there's ups and there's downs and there's how good you feel about yourself when you win 10 in a row. And then there's where the Terps are right now, which is, I got to be thinking, doubting lots of different stuff here as we get up on tournament time. And certainly they're not going to be a 1 seed. We figured that much out, right?
Yeah, that seems to be off the table now. You know, I've come in off the ledge though, Nestor. I had some time to think about this one, and you know what few people talk about. Some people mentioned it, I guess, during the game. You know, Maryland had a stretch of 4 games in 11 days here down the stretch, and in 3 of those were on the road. So you got to travel, and then you've got people like Michigan State and playing in the RAC, where Rutgers has won 18 games this year in the RAC. You know, think about that for a second. 18-1 at home this year for Rutgers, and they play some pretty good defense. Anybody that saw the game in College Park earlier this year remembers that they held Maryland to 56 points.
It's the Cameron Indoor of New Jersey, obviously,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. You know, I thought that same thing. Without the banners, though. Let's make that clear. 29 years since the Scarlet Knights have been to the NCAA
1991. I was thinking about my life back in 91. I was listening to Nirvana. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got 91. Oh boy, basketball season. I was.
Can you imagine what Terps fans would be saying?
My Reverend Howlers would get past the semifinals of the Big South tournament, which we could never do back then.
Well, I mean, can you imagine what Terps fans would do if you went from 1991 until now without a tournament bid?
Oh well, yeah, it's unfathomable. And Rutgers actually had a pretty good basketball history. You know, they've been a Final Four team and that sort of thing. But yeah,
I had the great Joe Boylan on, and he reminded me of all of that. You know, on the back end of this, for sure.
Yeah, I've been trying to think what to tell Terrapin fans to feel better, and I think you know, certainly Maryland's licking their wounds, and I think that's going to make them a dangerous team here down the stretch. Michigan coming in Sunday, you know, with still a chance for Maryland to win, and they share the Big Ten title, you know, no matter what. And you think about the Big Ten. The winner is going to have at least 6 losses, and it's possible, I guess, that a 7-loss team in conference play could win the Big Ten regular season title. So, I mean, my gosh, what a tough league this year. And you know, Maryland got worn down, but I think the schedule played into that. Turgeon talked about that a little bit. Anybody that saw him at the end of the Minnesota game, where he asked why they were playing a late game in the middle of the week in Minnesota, trying to get back on 2 days rest and play Michigan State. That's a pretty good question. It's not easy.
Well, you put these extra games in, this is what you're going to get, right? I mean, the NBA found that out a couple years ago when they tried to squeeze games into a strike year, right? There's only so much legs you have in basketball, and for the Terps, it's especially bad because you're 6 deep. I mean, they're literally out there running around with 6 guys until they're getting their ass beat, and then he unloads the bench in New Jersey in the middle of the night, Tuesday night. But, I mean, it's been his way of coaching this team, that he has not brought 7, 8, and 9 guys off the bench, so guys have played 38 minutes every night.
But those guys coming off the bench, Nestor, have not produced. That's been the big issue. There's just so much right now, and even guys in the lineup, you know, Eric Ayala shooting troubles. And
well, these were minutes for the Twins, right? I mean, to some degree.
Right. But based on all the things we've heard coming out of that, you know, maybe this is a better team without those guys.
No, but I'm saying when the team was constructed last June, you know, getting into where you thought you were going to be, that is what's missing here, right? A little bit.
Right, because the thing that you looked at with Maryland was, oh my gosh, they're deep, especially up front. They can run guys in and out up front. They got a lot of fouls to play with. Well, that's not true. And another little hidden nugget in this recently has been you know, Dante Scott, who has just been phenomenal as a freshman, has been in a little bit of foul trouble in recent games too. And so when he goes down, you know, suddenly you got to have even more from Sticks, and then you're relying on, you know, Ricky Lindo and Josh Tamayich to come in and play key minutes and key stretches, and that has not been a formula for success so far. In addition to the fact that getting so little from the guards off the bench, I keep, look, Aaron Wiggins is a great kid. I love the kid, and I hate to say this, but people keep talking about him in the NBA. They see him in the NBA. I look at him and I see Jared Nickens. He's just not hitting shots right now. He's got to get his game back together. And of course, against the Rutgers, he got in early foul trouble trying to defend and became a non-factor because of that. Hakeem Hart has the typical problem some freshmen have now that he's getting a chance at rotation. My gosh, he looks like he's going to be a great player down the stretch. But Hakeem, there's a reason they're leaving you open. There's a reason you're always open to shoot the ball. Maybe put it on the floor and try and create a little something because the perimeter shooting thing isn't working for you now either.
Well, the other part of it is when you get put into the game, to some degree, you want to be impressive and you want to shoot the ball. Even if you shoot it 5 times, you can't make it, right? Like, literally, that's part of being on the bench is when you're in there, maybe pressing a little bit, maybe doing a little bit too much, maybe trying to use the 6 or 8 or 12 minutes that the coach is going to give you against whomever it is. If it's against Longwood in November, and using it to go out there and, they're your Jordan minutes, or in this case, the Kobe minutes, right? Like, I would think that that's part of it too, but I see guys that look a little, Scott looks sort of gassed, right?
Well, yeah, and again, I think you have to look at the schedule. And the other thing is when you've got problems like Maryland has right now, and right now they've kind of lost their DNA. Their DNA is on defense. We're all looking at those shooting percentages and shaking our head. But the fact is, Maryland had gutted out all these wins this season because they just shut down other people at the other end. And right now, that's not getting done. And
nights they scored 56, they only held them to 51 last time around, right?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. They could get stops when they needed to. That's how you win so many close games. That's how you come back, 6 times from double-digit deficits in a season. And now they sort of lost that. So they've got to get back in the gym, work on their rotations, work on some of their basic defensive principles, and maybe tweak up some of those zone defenses so they can throw some different looks. But you can't do that when you've got 4 games in 11 days and 3 of them are on the road. You don't have no time to do that. So right now, I'm hoping we see a different Maryland team, here starting in this weekend and then into the Big Ten tournament, because I think they're going to have time to work on some of those things. I don't think, the teams that won all these games went 23-7 and 13-6 in the Big Ten. Those guys are still there, So it can happen. It can still happen.
Well, Michigan State showed that they're still alive the other night too, right? Like, you don't want to see Izzo in March, right? And part of this is the abuse that Turgeon takes every time this happens, because it happens, right? And when you're losing 17-2, and I'm at my friend's 50th birthday party on Saturday night, I feel like I made a better decision going to Timonium than I did going to College Park. And, and then Turgeon just gets annihilated. What is it about him, or is it about all head coaches, because you cover the whole sport, that suddenly when guys aren't making shots, it's the coach's fault? But part of this is Jalen Smith is just not touching the ball and shooting the ball the way allegedly a top 5 player in the country should be allowed to dominate a game in New Jersey on a Tuesday night.
Well, if you saw how big inside Rutgers was and how physical they could get, which is, that's still, Jalen's put on 30 pounds, but he's still not, he's still not Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, you're also afraid of getting him into foul trouble, right?
Exactly. And so yeah, it's not always that easy. And again, for Maryland, it starts on the defensive end, and I think the chance to retool that a little bit, go back to what they're good at, is gonna make them okay. As for Mark Turgeon, I really like Mark Turgeon as a person, and I think he's a really good coach. I've watched basketball going on 40 years now, and a lot of those years I didn't know anything. Since then, I've been close to the game, and I know what's going on. And Turgeon is a very good coach, and he gets a bad rap, like you're saying. The biggest problem for Mark Turgeon at Maryland is that he is not Gary Williams. So,
on Gary's 75th birthday, by the way. So happy birthday, Gary.
Oh, happy birthday, Gary. Yeah, I really enjoyed working with Gary all those years. Learned a lot of basketball watching his teams, too. And but Gary was a made man in Maryland for when he came to Maryland, what he did for the program, and then on top of resurrecting Maryland basketball after the dark days, after Lynn Bias, to win a national championship, and to do it all with that, typical Terrapin chip on your shoulder. I remember hearing him in press conference talking about Maryland being the northern outpost. And, that's true. In the ACC, Duke, Carolina, Wake Forest, NC State, those guys play a lot of games where they sleep in their own beds at night. The rest of the ACC, that's not true, even more so now. There's an inherent advantage to the geography in the ACC. There still is. And Gary fought against that, always accused too many writers in North Carolina didn't vote for Maryland players for weekly honors and for for the all ACC teams. And, there's some truth to that because they didn't see Maryland all the time. They saw those other guys all the time. And Maryland fans absolutely loved that. They loved the way he fought verbally, physically, coaching-wise for them, the team, his school. And, you cannot replace that. And that's no knock on Mark Turgeon. It's just he's not the Terrapin that Gary Williams was and who also has a national championship. That's why, my gosh,
well, it's been almost 10 years since the whole Sean Miller thing, right? Like, literally, right? And which direction the program was going to go in. And we're 10 years later, and there haven't been Final Fours, and there haven't been, that's where the bar is, right, for everybody that takes one of these gigs.
Yeah, but when you think about the players that have come through here, now they've had some bad luck. You look at last year's NCAA tournament, and Mark has had teams that have faded down the stretch. That's why it's much more important, I think, for Maryland and any other team in the league that if they would win the Big Ten regular season title this year, it would take them, elevate them in the minds of most people that are just casually watching. They go, oh, well, look at Maryland. They've got a Big Ten title now. That would be something special here. And I really hope it happens for them. And then we'll see what happens in the tournament. But Michigan State is putting on their typical buzzsaw thing right now. They played their best game of the year at Maryland, and then they played maybe one of their best halves at Penn State when they were down 19 and came back and won that game. And then right now they just look like a juggernaut. I would not bet against them, as a Final Four team right now, the way things are going.
He is Mike Ashley. He's doing Pressbox these days. You can follow him out on the Twitter thing and also the Terrapin Times for many, many years and covering Maryland basketball. So dusting off here, right, for Maryland. Michigan, Indianapolis next week. The pathway to trying to find a good bid. I know a week and a half ago we were talking, Greensboro, we'll all get on the bus and then we'll all go up to New York. And I don't know that it's going to be that sort of a pathway. And there's so many other teams and moving parts, and every other team has a tournament to be in too, including the teams in your own tournament. But Maryland really needs to buckle down here and at least start playing some good basketball before they see their name on the dance card next Sunday night.
Well, that's, their body of work is still pretty good. So no matter what happens, I can't see them dropping below a 3 seed. And I think they're still going to get that 2 seed. And Greensboro would be a great place for them to land, Gary Williams notwithstanding. I really think, fans could get to that game or those games down there, and it'd be a lot of fun. The latest I saw was, maybe East Tennessee State as a first-round opponent or Summit Conference champion North Dakota State. So, I'd tick it. And Turgeon has a pretty good record. I would count on the Terps getting to the second round. And then, a Sweet 16 is another feather in his cap and the Terrapins' cap to get back to where everybody wants that program to be.
The rest of college basketball and all the moving parts here and some thoughts about bracketology and really tournament week. I mean, Mike, I have Robert Kennedy on every week. We talk about Compass Point Golf, and we talk about the local hardwoods and the Towsons and the UMBCs, and I got my Coppin banner behind me and the MEAC, and they beat Morgan last week. All the local teams, Loyola has been, Navy, I mean, all of the teams around here that kick it around and the Mount and whatnot that could turn up on a dance card next week, they're all sort of in play for the first time in a long time. And I know as a guy who has punched a dance card down there in southwestern Virginia as well in recent times at Radford, for the small college person, for the UMBC fan, and I know John Feinstein was on earlier this week talking about his book and this, the March roads to these smaller places. This is sort of a fun week, and it's a lot more fun when Coppin isn't 2-15 in conference. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. This, I implore college basketball fans to watch these smaller tournaments. We're talking the mid-majors. For me, I'm headed down to cover the Big South tournament later this week, and I can tell you the semifinals in those leagues, with what's left, the final four teams in those leagues, that's about as good a basketball competitive as you're going to see anywhere in different, in these kind of leagues. Now, the Big South, they share the officials pool with the ACC, so there's quality officiating, and then you've got teams that are just going at it, and it's a loser go home. You're not going to get a bid if you don't win the tournament. So the basketball in those leagues, all the schools you're talking about, Towson and Coppin and Loyola, they've got to get it done 3 days in March to have a chance to advance. And you don't think that ups the ante for everybody and makes everybody playing, as hard as they can. And it's not always the prettiest basketball. Leagues like the Big South have gotten really smart now. They actually have a day off from the semifinals into the finals. So you don't come back the next day after you've played your heart out for 2 days, with no rest, and come out and shoot 30% in the championship games. Now it's back to a more workable format. Plus, they do a thing. Radford's hosting the Big South this year, and then but if they should lose on Sunday, the championship game would go to the home court of the highest remaining seed, and that's how Radford has hosted the last 2 years.
Well, I'm excited Saturday. I'm going to go see UMBC play, right? Why wouldn't I? Playoff game, right?
Yeah. It's really good fun basketball played at a really high level. I don't think those people get the credit they deserve. And right now it's wonderful because they're sort of going to be playing, get center stage until all the big tournaments tip off. And okay, so Maryland doesn't win the Big Ten, but you know what? They're still getting a high seed in the NCAA. Those tournaments have been devalued over time. Now somebody like Rutgers, they got to go in and make some whoopee in the tournament if they want to get to the NCAA. So that's the one difference I think. I think about North Carolina going as a bottom seed in the ACC, and they're going to have a chance to eradicate a lot of woes this year if they make a run. Not.
I want to be in their bracket. Can we get in their bracket or Duke? That's all. I'm a Maryland fan. All I care about is whether we get to play North Carolina or Duke. Right? Stay away from Virginia.
Yeah, for multiple reasons. Virginia it's like a trip to the dentist against that pack line.
Hey, man, we will chat again, I hope, before the tournament gets going here. Get out to Indianapolis. You know me, Mike, I'm just waiting for the Orioles to start, right?
That's right. Hey, and don't forget about the Maryland women. They look like they might actually get a number one seed with their 14 wins in a row, and not just wins. They have been beating the panties off the other teams in the Big Ten, which isn't that easy to go into gyms and win like they did.
Well, you know what? That's one of the knocks on Maryland, right? Like I was talking to Luke about this. Lamar beat the hell out of everybody. They're winning 45-600. We had no doubt as to what they were. Nobody was ever thinking Maryland was beating anybody up, men's-wise, right? That's what you want to see out of a number 7 team in the country. You want to see these decisive 15-point home wins. You want to see them go on the road and win by a dozen and not have to sink threes at the end to beat Minnesota and come back from 17-2 deficit. Yeah, that's what the women's team is doing. That's what a 1 seed looks like, right? Literally.
Yeah, six players won all conference honors. I mean, it took me a minute to get my head around that, but it's not like they all won. You had a Rookie of the Year in Ashley Owosu and second team and honorable mentions, and Blair Watson was on the all defensive team. But they have just been amazing, and I would watch. They're now a dark horse to get to the Final Four too.
Dude, rest up. You're going to need it, not just for Radford, but for every little tournament week and all the all the bands and the cheerleaders and the mascots and all that good stuff. I know how much you love college basketball.
Yeah, free press room food. That's on the agenda too.
It's his own personal Ramadan. 2 weeks of nothing but just hanging out, man. Just hanging out with the telly. Enjoy yourself, Mike. We'll hope to see you soon, bud.
Talk to you again soon.
Mike Ashley doing it at Pressbox, out on Twitter, and his own personal brand of comedy that I seem to enjoy out on the social media space. Always great to have Mike Ashley aboard. You can find us out in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault. Lots of conversation about college basketball this week with the Terps before and after the Rutgers game, as well as some combine stuff. And Luke and I getting after the Orioles in Masson this week. Ted Venetoulis, our guest this week on Baltimore Positive. Unbelievable conversation with Ted. I had to break the news to him that I campaigned against him as an 8-year-old lad at Colgate Elementary School. On behalf of the Lion of Halethorpe, John Coulahan, for any of you young old-timers out there, you'll dig the conversation, and any of you old young-timers, you'll learn a lot about Ted Venetoulis as I did. Sheila Dixon Thursday at Fadley's, as well as Frank Kelly on Thursday at Fadley's. We're getting ready for Monday night in the FCA banquet with Hall of Famer Ed Reed. We've got a lot of things happening around here, including a huge mayoral forum on April the 14th. It's Tuesday afternoon from 11 to 1. I'll be telling you more about that in the coming days and weeks. Baltimore Positive, alive and well. If you're in Harford County, we're having your county executive, Barry Pittman, on, Barry Glassman on, in the coming weeks, and Stuart Pittman from Anne Arundel County, if you're down in Glen Burnie or Ferndale, wherever you happen to be. Stuart Pittman's going to be joining us in May as well. So we're getting around. We're talking about fixing the city, making Baltimore better, and being Baltimore Positive around here. No one more Baltimore Positive than I. Well, maybe Don Moeller. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook. And big thanks to our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions for providing clean water for us to drink. And my pal Leonard Raskin from Raskin Global for sponsoring us here and all that we're doing at WNST. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Terrapin basketball and Baltimore sports.